Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about the new limited edition Platinum Preppy Wa. This is the fourth Wa edition that Platinum Preppy has done. I believe it's only the second one we've carried, but that's just relying on my memory. So the Platinum Preppy is a great entry-level fountain pen, thanks in part to how easy it is to refill, but also it has a lower end price point, which is really nice for a beginner or someone who's just wanting to try it out. Platinum as a company started in Japan, I think around 1920, maybe a little bit before, but it was in the early 20th century that Platinum did start making pens in Japan, and they started with fountain pens. So they're a long time fountain pen company, known for their quality. And of course, you can find up to very high-end pens that they make. And this is basically a fun design with their lower end fountain pen body that is just kind of like and everybody could get it type of fountain pen. And what they've done is put all these amazing, I'm going to open it so that you can actually see here while I'm talking about, but these amazing traditional Japanese designs on it. So I do have nearby what they look like without the limited edition options, just so you can kind of get a little reminder, or maybe you've never seen them before, but this is the standard Platinum Preppy with no limited edition design on it. So you can see very simple, easy to refill fountain pen. And it also has here just a totally clear barrel. So in this one, they're trying to make it real obvious what color ink you have in there. And in this one, it's, trying to be more subtle. So that's what they look like without the, major limited edition designs on them. And so I'm going to go over these 6 limited edition designs and try to get you a little bit of an idea on just like the Japanese cultural decision behind it, I guess. So the thing I would start with is, all of these are what I would consider auspicious designs in Japan. They're traditional. A lot of these go way back even to the Heian period. I'll talk a little bit more about that with each design, but just to kind of set the stage for you. So I'm just going to start up here with this first design. And this one, very interesting. You've got kind of a vermilion red barrel here with gold gourds. And so you might be thinking, why in the heck are there gold gourds all over this pen? I'm going to try to explain it the best I can. So I think the way I would explain this is gourds are known for having a lot of seeds. So the idea being gourds are lucky because your descendants will prosper. It's very easy for gourds to propagate richly, and you can kind of get the idea there. So that's why gourds are auspicious. And like all the other pens in this series, it's going to come with a black cartridge to get you started. You don't have to stick with black, but they're just, trying to give you something to get started with. And then all of them have a fine or 03 nib. And I will, after I go through all the designs, I'll definitely show you kind of how to put the cartridge in and what it's like to write with it. So this is the red gourd design. It's really kind of a transparent vermilion with the gold gourds. Okay, so that is the first of 6 auspicious designs we're going to go through. All right, so next, this one's probably my favorite. I just really like the colors they've done here. So this one is the Mandarin orange one. And so you can see, make sure it's, hopefully it's showing well on the camera there for you, but it's got this gorgeous, I guess I would call it for lack of better words, the blue-green transparent background, but it's a darker, almost like, I'm lacking the words for it, like a foresty blue-green transparent background with really pretty kind of like reddish, I don't know, I want to say vermilion again, but it's kind of a reddish orange, mandarin orange with these gold leaves. The oranges are like subtly, they're not as like shimmery as the gold. It's more subtle, but you can kind of see, actually, as I'm turning it, you can kind of see what I mean. They do, shine and kind of come across as metallic. So an absolutely pretty design. And before I forget, so this particular kind of orange is Tachibana, and so these are basically considered wild oranges in Japan, or at least you can find them in the wild in Japan. I believe it's the only type of orange you can find in the wild in Japan, and it's associated with immortality and longevity, so it's kind of like sometimes used for like a fountain of youth vibe, or similarly to how you might evoke like the Holy Grail in some Western cultures, or the fountain of youth. Yeah. But I really like the colors that they've done on this one. I'm really pleased with those. So that's your Mandarin orange one. So next we'll do this one. And this one's probably more obvious to some of you, even if you're not that familiar with Japanese culture, on what this one is. So this one is koi. Now you've probably at some point in your life seen some kind of beautiful koi garden. Koi are a type of carp that are bred specifically to be like really colorful. So they're basically a very pretty carp. And so this one, they've done like a transparent blue-black barrel with silver koi, and this represents the, waves of the water and everything. Now, let me try to see if I can describe this little better to you, because there's more going on in this design than at first meets the eye if you know a little bit about Japanese culture. So what's going on here, maybe we'll go like this so you can kind of get the picture. But there's this, I don't know if you'd call it, I don't know if legend is the right word, but basically like ancient story that I think probably came from China originally. But the idea is that these koi that can climb this waterfall, so see this is water, but the koi that can climb the waterfall, if they can get up there to the top, to the dragon gate and pass through, then they can become dragons. So koi are, associated with like vitality in Japanese culture. And so that's why very auspicious Japanese design. Okay. All right, we're halfway through the designs. So the next one, got another vegetable here. Technically it's a fruit, actually, I believe, but this is eggplant or nasu. So you can see they have chosen the transparent purple background. Seems pretty appropriate. And they've done both. They've done kind of a gradient silver to gold on the eggplants, and you can actually see where it kind of transitions and the gradient goes from the silver to the gold, right? Kind of around here. So some of these in the middle are actually both silver and gold. It's kind of cool what they did with this one. And let's see, what would I say about the nasu in Japan? Well, definitely they invoke like success, luck, achievement, so another very old auspicious symbol with a very cool design. Now this one I have such mixed feelings about. This is the bat, and you might be like, what in the heck? This is the most surprising design of all of them to me. It's really kind of goth looking, but so this is, it's actually hard for me to tell. I think the background is a deep, deep transparent blue. And you've got a gold bat design on it. So bats are another good luck symbol in Japan. I think this again is another thing carried over from China. But, you guys are going to have to let me know, because in school I studied Japanese culture and not so much Chinese culture, except for when they were pointing out how much of Japanese tradition has evolved from Chinese tradition. So, and also, I realized China is just huge, so it could be regional or super ancient or something. But during the Heian period, so for those of you who aren't like super studied up on Japanese history, Heian period would have been like 11th century. So that's when the Tale of Genji was written. This was a a time period in Japan where they were really trying to kind of develop Japanese tradition, like, and separate themselves from they were kind of like trying to, I guess, like create their own distinctly Japanese culture. And it, for those of you who studied Japanese or Japanese literature in university like I did, you may have been required to read The Tale of Genji or Genji Monogatari a bunch of times. So you might kind of recognize some of these symbols from that and be like, oh yeah, Heian period. But this is one for me that just kind of like screams Heian period. But they were, associated with happiness. And like I said, luck, good luck and happiness. So another, this one to me is very cool because it's not a traditional Japanese design that you see them put on things a lot. So it's kind of unique in that way, special. I happen to be terrified of bats, so I'm not picking this one. All right, and finally, the most Heian or Tale of Genji-ish of all of them is the Morning Glory, or for those of you who had to read the book as many times as I had to, it's Princess Asagao, so that's Morning Glory. She was named after Morning Glories. But some of you might be like, what is she talking about with this Tale of Genji or Genji Monogatari? But I think what kind of is important to understand when it comes to like Japanese culture is you would compare Murasaki Shikibu, who wrote The Tale of Genji, to somebody like Shakespeare, whereas everybody in Western culture knows Shakespeare pretty much, right? So everyone in Japan knows Tale of Genji or Genji Monogatari, and we're required to read it to some degree or on some level in school. So very important culturally. There's a very important character named Morning Glory or Asagao in that novel. So this one has the clear barrel with the purple shimmery Morning Glories. Now it is also a gradient where it kind of goes from silver to purple, so very cool. I think it's really neat how they did gradients on some of these. Hopefully they come across for you in the video. All right, so now that you've seen the 6 types, what I want to do is show you how to load the pen in case you've never used one like this, and then also just show you a little writing sample of this fine nib. And I'm going to do the writing sample on a Midori MD notebook because I think their paper is very nice for fountain pens, so I think it'd be a good, this is just a dot grid, which is very nice to use for a journal because there's enough pages for, to have a page every day. So we will swatch in here, but I'm going to begin by showing you just how simple it is to get started with this pen. Now, something that I think is important to mention at this point is that while this is a good beginner fountain pen, one thing about these preppies that I have found is the pen, or, you know, the part that feeds into the nib, it's not, how should I say it, like primed well for immediate writing. So I've found that when I pop my cartridge in, I often have to wait a while to be able to use the pen because the ink needs to feed down. You can, and you actually be able to see it, but the ink needs to feed down to the nib to be able to write with it. And so sometimes what happens is people will pop a nib in there or pop a cartridge in there and be like, it doesn't work, and just try pressing harder. And, you know, I advise against that. It's not good for the nib. I'm going to give you a close-up of the nib. This is the feed area I'm talking about. Okay, so you are simply going to take this cartridge. See where there's this ball stopper thing there? That's what's going to go down. But you're going to take it and you're going to firmly pop it in there. And so you can see where I'm going to be popping it in. And, you know, you want your nib pointed down. So you're just going to firmly pop it in. Now, and see it's starting to feed in there. But, you know, you can obviously see it's not ready to write with. If I were to go, I'll just show you. Okay, so do you see how it took some time to be able to get some ink down into the paper? So you don't want to think you can just pop your cartridge in and immediately start writing with it. That, I would say, that's the like rarer case for the preppy in particular. The other thing that might happen is you'll go, oh great, the ink is coming out now. Well, it may or may not be fully ready still at this point. This one seems like it's doing okay, but just really important to consider how, you know, how you need to let the feed do its thing to be able to use the pen and start writing with it. And so just don't be surprised if this is your first one, you pick it up and it doesn't write quickly. This one I would say is, you know, wrote quicker than average for me. Sometimes I have literally waited hours before for my nib to start writing. So really just, you might want to be patient with that. Now I do like the Preppy fine nib. I like that it's an inexpensive fountain pen and the nib still feels a little springy. So it doesn't feel like some other inexpensive fountain pens that just have extremely what I would consider like rigid nibs. But that should hopefully give you an idea of the, like, how you can write with it. So it's really pretty like versatile. So I can do some like, you know, larger cursive, or I can actually, you know, go quite a bit tinier with this pen, which is kind of fun. And okay, so depending on how you want to use your pen, you can get refill cartridges, you know, that look like this. But you can also actually use a platinum converter. So Platinum makes converters. This is like an example. I'll show you what they look like. Converters, for those who have never used one before, instead of being like a disposable refill, this will hold ink in it, and then you can actually wash it out with warm water and refill with new ink. So it's a reusable thing, and it enables you to use all these amazing loose inks you might have. And the reason I bring this up is because you actually can use these in your Preppy if you want to. So you don't have to use it like a disposable cartridge pen if you don't want to, which is really pretty cool. So a great beginner level fountain pen. Hopefully I kind of showed and explained the designs, but as always, if you have any questions about those designs or I didn't explain anything thoroughly enough, just drop me questions below and I will be happy to help you out. All right, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.